Okay, in the last video I showed you how to use divs, IDs, and CSS to basically set up the structure of a page where you have a banner, a left navigation, body text, and then a footer. So in this one we're going to do it a little different. We're going to show you how to do one where you have a banner, a top navigation, a body, and a footer. Alright, so in this one the first thing I always do is I create a new HTML file and then I save it right away. Do a file, save as, and this is a mistake from earlier, so I always like to clean up any junk I have. And I'm going to call this index.html. I always set up my websites where I have a place to put CSS and images. So I'm going to save this. And I'm going to basically start off by putting a container div. So I go to Insert, Table Layout Objects, and Div Tag. And so I'm going to select ID and call this container. I always try to, and sometimes I'll trim up this if I want to. It's not always that important, but I'm going to keep going. I try to always name things short, meaningful names, lowercase, all one word. So I'm going to continue. I'm going to call this header. Then make sure my mouse is on the other side of that, and I'm going to add another one called top nav. Once again, and I actually have a habit of always going split view. Then I can make sure that my mouse is still within the div tag at the very end. But you can always drag these things around once you create them if you have them in the wrong place. Body. Put my mouse right there, and I'm going to go to add one more called footer. Okay. So I'm just going to trim up some basic. This text just reminds you what it is, what it's there for. I also try to change the colors of these. The background, the first thing I do, because it helps me just see where things are and what goes where. And so basically the next step I do, I'm going to save this file, is I create my CSS file. Now you can do this. In the last video I showed you how to just do file new and create a CSS file that way. In this one you can always just start by, there's a number of ways that you can do it. You can go to Format CSS and select New, and so you can do it this way, and that's probably the easiest way. And so in this way I'm gonna create down here new style sheet because I want this to be an external sheet. And the first thing I want to do is I want to do a header and I want to do container. So I put the £sign container, I hit OK. And what it's doing is it's prompting me to name my CSS file. So I'm going to actually name this master.css, and I'm going to put it in my CSS folder. So when it does this, it now brings up this box where I can do what I want. So the first thing I want to do is I want to change, or the main thing I want to do right now is I want to select box, and I want to dictate the width of my page. Some people like to put in, say, 100 and then do %. And so that would allow your page to adjust no matter what. I tend to, it's kind of more of an old school way of doing it, and some people don't like to do it this way, but I still like to do pixels and set the dimensions of my page. And so I tend to either develop for a 1024 resolution or an 800 by 600. Nowadays most people have 1024 or higher, unless they're on a netbook or a mobile device, and that's a whole nother topic for another day. But if I don't have a lot of text on my page, or if I don't foresee it having that much text, if it's going to be very light with text, I will actually try to develop to an 800 by 600 screen, not because I don't think my users have it, but it just allows me to control the white space and the look and feel. And so if I'm going to really do an 800 by 600, I'm going to just do the width by 760 so I have some white space around it. So I'm going to actually just go ahead and put a margin of 10 pixels around the whole thing. If I wanted to have it different for different sides, I could adjust it, but I'm going to do same for all. I'm going to hit OK. So now now that I have my CSS set up and I'm going to save all real quick, I can see it now up here. And so when I toggle back and forth, even though the CSS is a separate file, so if I go into my folder, I have my index file, and then now I have my CSS file. So they're two different things, but in Dreamweaver it allows you to link them, and especially if you're in the split code view, you can really kind of work back and forth and see your changes. So I find that really helpful. But I'm going to now select my header, put my mouse in there, and I'm going to hit this plus sign. If you don't have your CSS window open, you can click on that, but I do, so I'm going to hit this, and I'm just going to go ahead and work on the header. So I got rid of that. It's being saved in my master down here. I can see this. That looks good, and I'm going to hit OK. And so right now I'm just going to change the colors, and the funny thing is I'm going to go right back and get rid of one of these colors, but I want you to see. So I chose background, and I'm just going to choose some loud color so I can really see them. And I'm going to repeat these steps for each one of the divs that I have. I check that it's master. I hit background, so we'll do yellow. And what I think this does is help you just see where each of the divs are. You know, is it really need to know? And as you become more comfortable, I check that it's master, it is. As you become more comfortable with this, this really isn't needed at all. But for me early on, I think it's a helpful exercise to do. Check that it's master, and I check that it's master because sometimes I notice people end up creating multiple files or just have a this document only, and then it just becomes a mess. And so for me, it's really important to keep them separate. So we'll go with more of a neon green. Alright, so we can see them each. So now what I can do is I can put in my header image that I created. Actually, the first thing I do is I'm going to get rid of this container text, and I'm going to hit split view just to make sure I get rid of anything, because sometimes there might be a sneaky little paragraph tag or something staying in there. And so you see when I do that, now my container's hidden. I can still see it down here if I click, and it will show me, and it'll even show the padding that I put on it. But alright, so now I'm going to get rid of this header text, and I'm actually just going to get rid of this background text too, or the background color, because I created an image or a banner. So I'm going to go to Insert Image, and I have my banner right here. Actually, let's go. I'm in the wrong folder. So I'm going to notice it's 760, so it's the same width as my container. And I would add something meaningful here so people with screen readers can read it. Okay, so I'm going to hit OK, and there it is. So now, with my top navigation, I'm going to actually leave this as is, because basically the way that when I put in my navigation later, it's going to adjust to it. And my body, you'll see that I could add a height if I wanted to. So I could add over here, I could say I want it 500 pixels, let's say. And you'll see that it stretches, but and if you really want to make sure every page is a fixed width height, that's what you would do. But a lot of times you can just get away with letting the body, the text, so if I hit enter, can adjust it. And you'll notice that there's some space here, and that will work out. But for now, hold on. Let's see what we just did here. Let's get rid of this. Alright, for now though, you get the idea. So right now we've basically set up with using a container div. We have a place for our top navigation, our body, and our footer. We'll add for the body just so you can see. We'll just go ahead and add that height after all. So just like that, you see what it's like. So let's save all. So I'm going to do a file, save all, and I'm going to make this a little smaller so you can see. But just like that, I've used CSS and div, so I have a container div, and then I have a header div, so I can see it right here, or if I click here I can see my container. Then I have my header. If I click in here, I can see my top nav. Click there, I can see my body. And if I click in the footer, I can see my footer. So just like that, if we take a look at our CSS, we can see that the way it's set up is we have a container that's set up, a header that actually doesn't have any information yet because we got rid of the background color. And we might add information later in this, such as we could add a margin or padding if we wanted to. In this case, we might end up leaving it blank, and that's okay. But just so you see, this is the basic CSS, and then this is the basic HTML. That there's not much here going on either, because we don't have much. But just like that, we've used, we'll do one last, whenever I see this little asterisk on either one or up here, it tells me I need to save, so I do a save all. But just like that, we created the structure of our layout using divs and IDs. Thanks. In the following videos, though, we will, I guess to give you a heads up, we will go into how you actually use CSS to format basically the font, the links, and other things that you might want to do.